You're listening to Head Voice, bringing you inside the minds of singers and sound creators who are redefining what it means to make music with the voice. I'm Evan.
And I'm Kayla, and you're listening to the final episode of Head Voice Season 1. We want to thank you so very, very much for listening to Head Voice and coming along with us on this journey over the past year and a half. We have a lot more in store for you coming back in the fall, so stay tuned until then.
Super sorry about the lateness of this episode. It was really hard to narrow down the clips that we wanted to use for this. We've just had so many great guests, all of whom I'd like to thank for giving their time so graciously to this little upstart podcast. We really appreciate it. We edited together just a few of the best bits. If you can't tell who's talking, we'll leave that in the show notes. But without further ado, I hope you enjoy the best of Head Voice Season 1.
Of that song at the beginning of the arrangement that I did with Ben Bram for Forte, the I Can't Make You Love Me. The beginning of the arrangement, I had gotten the idea for the beginning from just sitting at the piano and kind of like closing my eyes and just like kind of almost getting into character, you know, like really like understanding what it would feel like to be a person who would need to write that song. And I just kind of felt like if I were that person in a bedroom, you know, turning the lights down and making the bed and kind of watching this person that you love try and walk out of your life, I wouldn't be spitting it all out in time with like symmetrical line structure and all that stuff. I would be like kind of trying to piece together my thoughts slowly. And so that's kind of what it feels like. And so I really love digging into that aspect of arranging. I think it can be like so raw and like such a beautiful
the reality, I think, is that the improv thing is, you know, it's like a microcosm for like how we want the world to be, you know? So that's always interesting to see, to watch people feel that, you know, and sometimes even consciously realize that. But that's, you know, just deciding like, when is it that I'm going to hold space for you? And when is it that so me holding space for you means I'm either leaving room or I'm gonna like come up with something and I'm gonna stay there,
right?
So that you have this bed to play over, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna be sensitive to you and feel like you're kind of running out of ideas, or you're coming to an end, you know, with your thing, whatever your statement is that you've made. And so I'm going to, you know, start feeding you some more ideas just to see if there's any more that we can eke out of you, or maybe you're done, and then I will take something that you've done and start working with that, you know, I don't know, whatever. It's conversation. So that's, I mean, I'm still really just skimming the surface, but that's a little snippet into why I love it so very much.
And I don't want to say overlooked, but I think we take for granted how powerful we are as a cappella singers, because the human voice is, I mean, you've called this head voice, you know, it's our way of getting all of the crazy things that happen up in our brain. It's the way of getting them out of us.
Exactly.
So I really think like the music is fine, like the notes are fine and they're good. Like we all love notes. That's why we're in this thing. But it's the human experience that each of those notes carries, which is why why we do a cappella. That's why we love listening to India Carney sing. You know, that's why we love listening to Scott or Mitch or whomever, you know, like or whomever. Like it's because of that shared experience. So my whole goal as like a force is to bring that out. Just put in the show notes, just gesticulates like a flower. But it's to help and encourage people to be themselves and to use music as their way of letting it out, like let it out. Better out than in.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah. Morning Light, the primary motive for it, or the primary little melody for it, the one in the chorus, was actually, I think it was the alarm sound on like an old crappy cell phone that I had. It went bum 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 bum. Wow. Just like a generic ringtone, and it woke me. We were on tour. We were in like Michigan or somewhere, and I woke up to that in our motel, and my brain put morning light, like put the words morning light to it, and I thought it was cute and silly, and that I would never use it for anything because that doesn't sound like a good song. But it kind of just kept rolling around in my head. So I messed with it for a while, and started to try to picture a chord progression under that. And something that I like to do a lot, both in if I'm writing or if I'm arranging or if I'm recording or whatever, I like to play a lot with effects, with various types of effects. Right. One of my favorite types of effects is delay, particularly timed delay, so that you can set a note value to one or more delay voices, if you will. And so, one of my favorite ones to do, which just sort of automatically generates I think an interesting rhythm, is to have like a stereo delay and to set one side to a quarter note and to set one side to a dotted quarter note. So you get a ba, 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 ga, ga. Just by creating a single tone or a single percussive sound. If you just go ba, you get ba, 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 ba. And so I was fooling around with that and just played like the bass notes, which went bum, 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 and got. And I was like, oh, cool. There we go. There's most of a song. There's like most of the DNA of the song. Great. I'm a very lazy songwriter. Like, great, I did it. I'm done. Morning light, ba ba ba.
So it's a funny story. The night at that college where when you reach the second semester of your second year, you have, as all colleges, I would assume, a deadline for which you have to apply to be a major of something, right? And so I'd reached this point and completely, again, chickened out because I didn't have I wasn't classically trained in any instrument. I had actually auditioned for other universities before and gotten rejected in the music department because I didn't have the training. I wasn't up to snuff. And so I hadn't practiced a piece. There was nothing. I was going to try to do it with piano. I didn't know my chops with the piano. You remember that one piano class that I had that I chickened out of? It all came back, right? It all came back. And I knew I loved arranging for a cappella, but, I don't think Bucknell University is a unique school in the sense that it doesn't really consider a cappella something to be admired in terms of the musical, academics. So I had nothing. I thought I had nothing. And so I wasn't going to do it. And so, but Sean, who had, at that point become kind of a mainstay in my life, he broke into my room, stole my keyboard, moved it into another building, stole a bunch of snacks, moved it into another building, and then kidnapped me after class and put me in that building in a basement where no one was, set up, and he literally stood. He did his work right next to me, and every time I tried to get up and leave, he had shoved me back down into my seat. And I learned a whole I learned a piece by Chopin that I then used the next day to audition. But we stayed up all night, me learning this piece, trying to memorize it. And he was like, "You're going to be a music major because this is what you're meant to do. Stop screwing around."
You owe everything to him.
Needless to say, this guy kind of stuck around in terms of my my friendship circles, and he's my dude, and for that reason.
If we were writing the movie of your life, I think that scene would get scrapped for being like unrealistic. That seems
right. It struck me that way too.
So Dog Days almost didn't happen. Dog Days was a thought that Michael Brizantine, he had this thought, like we were in bed one night. He was like, "Yeah, like Dog Days, like that's cool. Like it'd be cool to reimagine that." And I was like, "All right." So when they were choosing songs and soloists, they said, "Okay, well, Lanique could be one, Mithil could be one, and a couple people, whatever." That was for 2015, and so the song came up as a suggestion, and so. Before FWIS, we call it FWIS, but during our spring break, we would take time out and be on campus so we could do rehearsals, like mega intense rehearsals for ICCA. And so like before FWIS, Michael had asked, "Hey, can I get like voice recordings of you singing these 3 songs, whatever?" So I sang a couple of them, and one of them was Coming to My Head, which ended up being the one we chose. Another was Dog Days. Another was Gold Mine. Kimber's my girl. I'm seeing her tomorrow, and I'm so hyped.
Nice.
But so my mom was still alive at this point. It was like the early parts of 2015. And I'm downstairs in my basement recording these joints, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that could be cool, but like I don't really think that's for me. So I go upstairs, and my mom is still awake. It's late at this point. And so I'm like, hey, Mom, like, can you listen to these with me and see which one you think? And so I played Goldmine. She said, oh, that's cute. That's nice. And then I played Dog Days for her, and she said, it's nice, but I don't think you're ready to sing it. And I said, okay. And then I played Come Into My Head for her. She said, oh, yeah, that's the one. She said, oh, yeah, that's the one. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. You know, one of my friends who was also in the group, his name was Brandon. He said, yeah, I could see Lanique like running around in heels, like flipping her hair, singing Come Into My Head. And that's exactly what Come Into My Head ended up being, just kind of a mosh pit of craziness. Fast forward to 2015 in November, my mom passes. And Fo asked me to rejoin, and I'm just kind of trying to make sense of my life, trying to create a new normal. And when they asked me to come back, they said, yeah, when you come back, we want you to sing a solo, obviously. I said, okay. So there were a couple songs that they had listed. The new music director was Joshua Singer, and him and Michael worked closely together. And so Josh and Michael were like, hey, let's talk about songs for Neek. And so they were like, oh, this JoJo joint was really cute, was really cute. She might like that. And I love JoJo. She's my girl. And then Michael was like, well, what about Dog Days? And so, like, Josh was like, okay, like, why not? And so they sent it to me, and I said, I don't really want to do Dog Days. Like, I talked to my mom about it, and she didn't really think that one was for me. So then, kind of fast forward a bit, Michael starts arranging and uses the 2015 voice memo. So I never re-recorded that piece of the solo. I just, I said, I don't really want to sing that one. Let's do Save My Soul. And so they were like, okay, but we're probably going to do Dog Days. And, they kind of were real sly about it. So Michael is arranging this, and he when he talks to me about it now, he says, like, I'm arranging this and crying, like I'm listening to this, and it's so fitting now. And so I'm like thinking about, I don't really want to sing that song. Mommy didn't like it. Like, that's not the one. And when they decided, I was like, if I said, this isn't about me, this is about Fo. If it's in the best interest of Fo, do Dog Days. Like, I'm not pressed. I'll sing whatever. And so Michael's arranging, and they send this thing out. It's time for FWIS, and the whole county is hit with this major snowstorm. So I live at home at this point. I'm not living on campus, so I have no way to get to campus for FWIS. And so they have this arrangement. They have all 4 arranged songs, and their last soloist is not able to come. So I finally was able to get out of my house. My dad dug me out. He was like, yeah, you should probably go. Like, school was like, we had an extra winter break. It was crazy. And so I get to school by like the last, I think it might have been the last 2 days of FWIS. And I finally make it. And they sing the arrangement for me. And that was the first time I had heard it. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God. I was immediately in tears. I was like, what is happening? So I'm singing it for the first time, and I was like, and I just heard my mom and saw her nodding her head, and she said, you're ready now. And it was like an overwhelming sense of like joy and peace, but also, it's a huge loss. Like, that was my mother. And there are lots of things in my life that she will not now be able to physically be there for me for. But singing Dog Days became so cathartic. And I remember in the beginning not wanting to do it. And I was like, I don't really want to do it. And I was fighting with myself and fighting with Fo and fighting with Michael. And I was like, I don't really want to do this. But oftentimes we don't want to do the very things that we need to do. And so when I agreed to do it, and when I started thinking about the words of the song and thinking about how it really painted such a vivid picture of my mother's life, and painted a beautiful picture of her struggle and her health kind of deteriorating, and me watching that, me and my sister watching it, and my dad watching that happen. That song just became so uplifting, and some of the literal meanings of those words didn't mean the same thing anymore. So the whole song became reinvigorated. It became this new entity. And hearing people say things like, I never heard you sing that live, but seeing you sing that on YouTube, or hearing the audio, hearing the studio version of that song really touched me. That just confirms what I didn't want to do, but what I should have done. And I'm glad I did it. It was a decision I'm glad I kind of fell into, but I made the right decision. And I really did the work. I was so depressed singing that song. And now looking back at it, coming out of that depression, that was one of the things that held me. It was so hard. And I'm surprised, like most of the times I didn't cry singing it. But it is such an intense part of my life now. And so, I mean, I want to sing other music. Like Dog Days isn't the end of my life, obviously. I want to sing more things. But for me, that was a pivotal moment. And that came to me because of acapella. That came to me because of Faux Pas. That came to me because, well, for me, it was God kind of orchestrating things and putting things into the right places at the right time. You know, I was like, how come I didn't get in my freshman year? But it was because I wasn't supposed to get in when I was a freshman. I was supposed to get in when I was a junior. So then I could spend that extra time. Everything is ordained and orchestrated in ways that are so beyond my capability of putting things together. We think we do so much, and I'm just like, this universe and this thing is so much bigger than us, and we really think that our little small part in the world is like, you know. Anyway, that's a whole nother joint. I'll preach.
Yeah, so we're nearing the end here. I want to just quickly go down the line, and what is from what you know of acapella and what we've talked about today, what is like the main piece of advice that you'd give to the community at large, or any, groups trying to do stuff?
Okay, I'll start. I would say to collaborate more with other groups and art forms and genres, just to, make your presence known here. And, I feel like just in general, acapella, like I said, I'm not familiar with it, and I'm extremely involved in the music scene here, and I wish I was, and I give you all so much credit, and I think you have to be extremely talented to perform like that, and I would like to see more of that, like, in our community. So I would say, and I'm all about collaborating with, whether it's bringing different artists together and multi-genre bills and stuff like that. So I would say, like, branch out more, as I do in my community too, like branch out of your acapella community and have more involvement in other aspects of the industry. I think it would be really cool to see.
Yeah, I agree on that front. Like, definitely finding some common ground and finding spaces where the word genre is taken away and it's just music, and acapella can be presented in that same space as any other music genre out there. Just from someone on the outside looking in, from the aspect of covers, whenever I think of folks that are doing renditions of something, I would just say, can I swear?
Oh, yeah.
No, I won't swear. I was just going to say, whatever you do, if you are going to do a rendition of a song, own it, right? Own that song. Because I just think of the great Nina Simone. Some of her biggest records weren't records that were hers, were records that she redid. So add that flavor, add that, whatever your group is good at, add that thing. Because I think for someone on the outside looking in, when I listen to a record, that's what really catches me, versus it's just another rendition of this song.
I hope this doesn't come off as really harsh, but acapella is very serious to me. I take it very, very seriously. And it's just, for me, with acapella, if you're going to do it for fun, find your crew and just have fun and do it for fun, and, perform as much as you want and live your life, that way, and really enjoy that. But if you're going to do it for real, just do it for real. Like, don't keep your standards high. Rehearse as much as is needed, not as much as you want to, as much as you need to. Like, make sure that all the people in your group are dedicated and that they want to be there too, and that they are going to contribute to the group in ways that allow you to be productive and successful. Don't be afraid to take risks, and don't be afraid to create your own music. It's okay to reach for the stars. Like, where else are you gonna reach? You're not gonna reach for the ground. Like, what? Like, that's what you're not gonna do. So, like, it's completely fine to want to do a cappella in a very serious way and to want to make a career out of it, because if that's what you want to do and that's what you're passionate about, I encourage you to put 100 and 1,000% into that. So, yeah, that's my advice.
I put a lot more on. Oh, it's dripping. I'm just gonna do it. It's a lot. Oh, I feel it on that one.
Oh, I can't watch this. This is painful.
I'm really glad that I'm doing this for all of our 9 watchers right now.
I also love that you changed into a turtleneck, so it would really capture your
it's
heat
really letting
better.
me.
I'm gonna open the window a little bit more. Great.
I can't think straight.
Favorite vocal song.
Favorite vocal song. Favorite vocal song. I feel.
Maybe this will help. So apparently, if you're vegan, you can't drink milk, which helps with heat. But apparently peanut butter, which I probably shouldn't be touching right now, peanut butter is good to help subdue some of the heat.
I'm crying.
So Evan's crying, and he's going to eat his peanut butter, and everything is going to be good.
Ooh, the peanut butter's good. I just want to... All right. I don't know if this is a hot sauce, but I just...
So very, very much for coming with us this past year and a half. Where'd you come with us? You didn't come with us anywhere. You didn't come anywhere. You're not here.
You're listening to Head Voice, bring you inside the best of the minds and the best of the minds.
You're listening to Head Voice.
You're listening to Head Voice, bringing you inside the minds of the best in contemporary acapella. I'm Evan.
I'm Kayla.
You're listening to Head Voice, bringing you inside the minds of the best in contemporary.
Come on and talk to me. Come on and talk to me. Forgot I live. Forgot I die. Come on and talk to me. Come on and talk. I'm a gypsy, yeah.
You're listening. You're listening to the record. Crap.
That's new.
And it's Eric, right?
Cool.
That's your name.
Evan.
And now for this week's episode of Head Voice.
We need to save these and put them somewhere.
And now for this week's episode of
Head Voice.
Sounds great. Fucking All-American Burger. Goddamn.